What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Sean. What's going on, fellas?
It was good. It was good.
What's good is the word. Yeah, we had another great week of football, as we mentioned. Really, just a great week in sports. Obviously, we got the Cavs versus the Thunder last week, as we were going through our podcast last week, and then really 5 straight days of playoff football between college football and the NFL. Based on this past week, really throughout all sports, was there any surprises for you guys in terms of how the games went? And, what was your thoughts on some of the playoff games?
For me, interesting enough, most of the favorites they won their games. I guess the biggest surprise, I guess for me, would just be the Vikings versus the Rams. I didn't expect them to get their ass whooped like that. That was a poor performance. Poor performance. Both the quarterback, Sam Darnold, and his O line. He was holding the ball a long time, but man, they was getting quick pressure. He was just getting, 9 sacks in a playoff game. That's unheard of at this point. So that's probably the bigger surprise out of all the games for me.
Yeah. I can't say I'm surprised by any of them. I did get all 6 of my picks right, so obviously I can't be surprised with it. But that Vikings game too, like you said, Chris, I just knew the Rams were gonna win it. I just didn't think it would look like that. But really going back and looking through the game, it's so much moments get highlighted, and the same kind of shit that happened in the Packers-Eagles game when on the first play on the kickoff he fumbles that shit, and then was it a punter? I can't remember exactly.
It was a kickoff.
Okay, he fumbled that shit, and then boom, the whole game changes from there because you go in, you punch that shit in, and now your whole game plan kind of shifts, and mindset around the team kind of shifts, and that same kind of shit happened in that Vikings game where you driving down, and they had a great opening drive where they couldn't stop the Rams at all. But then it's 10-3. You're driving down. You get on the plus side of the field. It is 3rd and 8, but then you throw that pick. We were able to get the ball back, but then you fumbled the next time you had it. That shit is killer, man. That shit sucks. And you could tell but towards the end of that game, even though they technically had a still chance, they had time enough to come back. It was just they called that shit. They called they called mercy on that. So I was surprised to see how it went. But as far as the other games, no, I can't really say any surprises with those. Honestly, knew the Broncos weren't going to have a good game. They scored that first time and then scored the rest of the game. Commanders, Bucks kind of went exactly how I said it. First person to make a mistake will win. First person to make a mistake will lose, and that's what happened with Baker and that fumble. So I don't know. You had any surprises, Shot?
Yeah, Green Bay. Well, honestly, the Green Bay and Eagles game, just in general, in terms of how Green Bay played, Jordan Love, obviously, that was the entire team got beat up, throughout the game, and then, obviously they got hold of that first kickoff, and it kind of spiraled from there. But in terms of the quarterback play on both sides, Jalen Hurts has been skating by because they continue to win. And it's kind of hard to it's both good and bad when you're able to win that way, and you're able to still correct after a win. But it's how long is this gonna? At some point, it's the excuses are running out. It's not just where he didn't need to do it. It's not just it's the offensive scheme. It's got to be something more than that. It's not just they're all the stuff that's going on with AJ Brown. I don't give a fuck about the book shit. First of all, I don't know why the media keeps talking about the stupid book shit.
Because they hate us. I'm trying to tell you, they don't give a fuck. It has nothing to do with nothing.
The book shit. It doesn't have to. The book shit doesn't have to do with anything. But at some point, the criticism for Jalen Hurts, especially with with the contract that he's gotten has to start. I mean, I'm not saying that the criticism start to have to come, but there needs to be some type of, all right, what the fuck is really going on here? Because the passing game really over the past 2 seasons has kind of been unacceptable. But once again, what's the answer?
No continuity. They have not had the same, and they won't have it again because Kellen Moore's about to leave. They have not had the same offensive coordinator.
They've had the same head coach who's the offensive guy.
He is not the offensive coordinator. There's a big difference. He is not the offensive scheme. No, it is not. It is not. It is not his offensive scheme.
It is his scheme.
I am telling you, it is not his scheme. I am sitting here telling you as an Eagle fan, it is not his scheme. Like, I'm dead ass.
It's a scheme.
It's not.
They've been using the same scheme the past 3 years.
It's not his scheme. It's what Jalen likes. It's the plays that they're running. Yeah, Jalen might like those plays. It ain't Nick Sirianni's scheme at all.
So what's Nick Sirianni's scheme? If you're saying that we got multiple years.
Okay. That's like me asking you, what is Dan Campbell's scheme? He's not doing nothing. Neither is Nick Sirianni, and that's not my issue.
Dan Campbell's not the offensive. He's not creating the offensive game plan.
He's not creating defensive game plan either.
That's
but what I'm saying is neither is Nick Sirianni. That's all I'm saying. Nick Sirianni isn't creating the game plan right now.
Nick Sirianni created the offensive scheme. He's not creating the game plan. That's different.
No, he is not.
What they're running is his offensive scheme. What Kellen Moore is.
I'm not about to say create the game because I already know that's not his scheme. That's literally not Nick Sirianni's scheme. Literally.
But it's not necessarily Kellen Moore's scheme either, though.
I didn't say it was Kellen Moore's scheme either. I never said that. How is it his scheme? How is it his scheme when?
Okay. We can't. Okay, so you can't. There's no such thing as there's no coach's scheme. It's not Jalen. So it's one of the
plays that Jalen likes to run. It has nothing to do with.
Okay, but you're okay. So Chris, I think you're getting a little confused here. You're talking about plays. When we're talking about offensive scheme, that is the whole set of plays. That's the overarching set of plays. The overarching set of plays is based by Nick Sirianni. He's had different offensive coordinators that have gone about changing the game plan and changing how the plays are going. But his scheme is what is being run. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm telling you, the scheme this year is not the same scheme from last year, and it's not the same scheme from 2022.
So whose scheme is it?
Because it's not Kellen Moore's.
I never said it was Kellen Moore. I just said it wasn't. So if it's not, think about this. You said it ain't Kellen Moore's, but at the same time, this year alone, they have ran way more motion than they ever ran. This year alone. Go look at the percentage. But that's Kellen Moore's part. That's what I'm saying. It's a mixture. It's
also about concepts too. It's not just like motion.
Okay, so you're still talking about the plays. I'm talking about the overall scheme. So that is still a part of his.
So are you telling me that Nick Sirianni has ran the same scheme since 2021? Yes or no?
Yes, he's run the same scheme. That doesn't.
Then I can't argue with you.
That's not the same plays, though. It's
not the same scheme. It is not.
So whose scheme is it? Are you saying it's Kellen Moore's?
No, I'm saying what I am saying is
you have to. All right, Chris, you have to pick between two. It's nobody else. It's one. It's either the offensive coordinator or the head coach. So you have to.
But if I just say it's okay, that's fine. You can say it's Kellen Moore's scheme, and you can argue that it's not. And I am sitting here telling you that the exact same shit they're doing this year is not what they did the year before. So it can't be Nick. So you telling me? And I just asked you, are they running the same scheme for 2020? You said yes, and I'm saying I got nothing for you. Because they're not.
You're confusing scheme and plays, Chris. I'm not.
What is this? Okay, what is the scheme?
The scheme is the overarching offense in general.
I'm asking you, what is the scheme that they're running?
The scheme. I'm telling you, the scheme that they're running is Nick Sirianni's scheme.
What is it? Explain to me. What is his scheme? What is his scheme?
All right, we don't have to go too much into this. If that's what you,
I'm just asking because I'm like, you can't tell me it's the same for last year. You can't tell me that.
So you're saying it's Kellen Moore's.
I quite literally just said, if you telling me that to pick one, I'm gonna say Kellen Moore. You're gonna sit here and say,
you
no, it's
have
not.
to pick one.
I just answered. I said, if you tell me I got to pick between two, it is Kellen Moore. They're running way more motion than they have, so it can't be Nick Sirianni, because Nick Sirianni said it himself. Motion is arbitrary. That shit don't matter. It don't make sense to him. Okay, and they run way more. But that's his scheme.
The scheme is about what is the keys, what they want to attack, what they want to go to their strengths. That is still the same thing. Now, how they go about achieving their strengths and how they go about achieving their offense can change from offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator, from play caller to play caller. Now, what Kellen Moore has brought in is what you're saying, some more motion, because that is some keys that he likes and that he feels will help achieve what goal overarching that the scheme wants that Nick Sirianni is running.
And that's I'm asking you, what is that? What is his attacking point for his scheme? What is his goal for his scheme?
So what it appears that his attacking point is that
what it appears. What is it? I don't need what it appears. You tell me what is his scheme? So
I mean, if you're arguing that, then what do you think that it is? If you're saying that you don't have to pick one, and you're saying that you don't have to pick between. No, I'm asking you, what do you think the scheme that they're running is? Don't go off what I said that you have to pick one between the two. What is the scheme? Who do you think is going to, if it's not Nick Sirianni and it's not Kellen Moore, then who is it? Whose scheme are they pulling from? What goal are they trying to achieve as an offense, and who is the one that's driving that force? If that's what that's what I'm trying to ask.
Currently, the scheme that they're the driving force of this game right now is pound the fucking ball. And play bully ball and lean in the offensive line. The year before, their scheme was nothing like they were leaning on the offensive line. They were trying to take deep shots. That's all they were doing, trying to set up the pass, to set up the run, to end the game. They have not been doing that at all this year. They've been running the fucking ball. They haven't been setting up. They haven't been using the pass to set up the run to end the game. That's how they've been doing. That's how they've been doing since 2022, 2023. That was their whole purpose. We're gonna throw the deep shots. We're gonna get the lead, run the clock out. They ain't been doing that. They've been pounding the fucking rock this whole year. None of that.
But how? Okay. Anyway. All right. Well, that's the case. If according to you, based on every time we come on here, every time we say something about the Eagles, it's not what it is. So I don't know. What did
I say that wasn't it?
Earlier, last year you said that there was no funk. We came to the conclusion that it was. This year you said that Jalen Hurts, there was no issue.
So what made the funk go away? I know, first of all, let's rewind. I never said that. I said that Nick Sirianni is not going to get fired.
No, you did. You definitely said there was no funk.
I definitely said no. Right after the playoff game, I said if they look bad at playoff game,
that was before the playoff game. That was way before the playoff game.
No, it was not. No, it was not.
Okay. I think he came around on it because of that playoff loss.
That's literally why we went and got on the podcast right after the playoff game, because y'all was waiting to see what I had to say.
Yeah, and you can't.
That was after you said there was
because
no
y'all whole point that whole time was, Chris, so do you think Nick Sirianni should be on the hot seat? I said I don't think it's Nick Sirianni.
I never said that Nick Sirianni should be on the hot seat. I've been the biggest supporter of Nick Sirianni. Was that not a question?
It was the question we asked. It was the question we asked.
What are we talking about? I didn't say you. I just said that was and my whole stance has
That's what
always
we were talking
been.
about.
It's never been Nick Sirianni. That's been my whole stance.
And your thing was the coordinators, which are coming back. So your thing is
coordinators. That's my whole. That has been my whole premise this whole time. We have had a different coordinator every fucking year.
So what does Nick Sirianni do?
Currently, he does what Dan Campbell do. He's the leader of men. That's what he do. If we can sit here and we're gonna talk about later, we can sit here and like Mike Bray was the best nigga alive when he don't have a fucking scheme, but he a leader of men. Why can't Nick Sirianni do the same thing?
Dan Campbell does. I mean, I don't know exactly what Dan Campbell do, but he does
fight kneecaps. And then niggas was acting like it was tripping, but because he goes for the fourth down, that ain't him. That's Ben Johnson making these plays. He just said, "Go ahead, go for it. Come on, whatever."
But Dan Campbell carries a play card every game. It means something. It means something.
Are you call the plays, Cass? Are you gonna say tell me call plays?
We don't know. We don't know if he calls something.
I really think that y'all are confusing. I think that y'all are confusing what So just because he doesn't call plays does not mean that he does not have a scheme. He has a scheme and an idea of how he wants to attack defenses. What Ben Johnson is doing has created an offense around what his general keys that he wants. So next year, if Ben Johnson goes, their offense, their play calling might not look the same, but their offensive, what the offensive what's the word I'm looking for? The pillars of their offense is going to be the same. The way that they attack defense is going to be the same. Same way on defense, which is why we're seeing.
I agree with that, but that's my perspective. I think if Ben Johnson leave, that offense, I mean, I understand what you're saying, play. I promise you, I feel like that offense is not going to look nowhere near it. And even just the play calling, the scheme that you talk, I can't agree with that.
It's going to be the same key. So if Ben Johnson leaves, though, Chris, why? Because but it's off of Dan Campbell, but it's also off of the players, right? They attack the middle of the field, play action. That's really the crux of their shit. If Ben Johnson leaves,
Ben Johnson also was not the offensive coordinator the first year. Do you guys realize that? They've been running the same thing the entirety of Dan Campbell.
Not to my knowledge, because when we played them in 2022, that shit does not.
Because it doesn't look the same, they've added players to expand the playbook. The keys were still the same in terms of what they wanted to attack. That does not change, and that is what offensive scheme is. You guys are like mixing offensive scheme and play calling together. Play calling will change, and play calling can change how an offense looks. But the offensive play calling is in terms of how they attack an offense. The answers that they give the offense for against a defense, that is completely different from the scheme itself. The scheme itself is not going to change with the person unless they are legitimately having the offensive coordinator be the person that they want to completely own the offense as their own, and vice versa if they want the defensive coordinator to own the defense as their own. So, for instance, like the Falcons, their Cass mentioned he likes some of the people that they're looking at in terms of it's different from Raheem's typical scheme. Yes, Raheem what he likes to run is a lot of 4-3 stuff. If they go or a little is not as aggressive as somebody like Wink Martindale who runs 3-4, who might blitz a little bit more, who might do a little bit more single high. The keys and how they attack the quarterback, how they attack their defense is a little different. And so it's going to be a different playbook. And he might want them to be like, hey, I don't want to run exactly what I have been doing. So it depends. Now, we don't 100% know how often, like who wants, like when they decide to change in terms, you could typically tell by the coaching hires when they decide to change and go different from what their typical scheme or what the keys that they like in terms of like West Coast offense or something like that. But I feel like you guys are confusing the two and mixing them. And that's typical between people just in general.
But I just think I get what you're saying. My only argument, Matt, is literally this year we don't look like what we did last year. We're literally leaning on our offensive linemen and running the ball and running and the types of run. We're running out of 12 personnel a lot. And that's something we usually just go 11. But we run out of 12 personnel. And my thing is, I get the play calling, yes. Play calling obviously is going to be different if you got somebody else calling the play sheet. But the way we're attacking people is not the same from last year. And that could be personnel reasons why.
That's definitely personnel.
But I just feel like it don't look the same. And obviously Nick Sirianni is a constant, but I mean, it's just ironic that every year, to me, watching the game, it never looks the same. And
it's different. Yeah, it's going to be different because there's certain things that like Saquon might be a better runner out of 12 personnel comparatively to DeAndre Swift or comparatively to Miles Sanders. They might have different things that Saquon might be better at attacking, and it's unlocking a different part of their offense and some of the play calls that they or plays that they might have had in the playbook that they didn't. That wasn't staple of their offense last year. That's a staple of their offense this year. That's what I'm saying. And it's so the same, but the same thing is like the Eagles offense still doesn't, some of the things that are still consistent is the Eagles offense doesn't feature a third receiver as much in terms of being somebody, a player that's of high volume comparatively to maybe other seasons. But we see they've tried to fix that by getting different personnel and people that would help that out. but obviously they haven't necessarily 100% hit on that, even though obviously Dotson scored this past week and stuff like that. That's all I'm saying. It's going to change with the personnel, of course, but somebody's got to answer to it. If you're saying it's not Nick Sirianni, somebody at some point.
Okay, let me ask you this: what are they answering to? Well, I mean, as far
as why is it so often that it seems like the passing offense is not clicking? What is it? Because it's not. This has been multiple seasons that it seems that something is off, even with a coordinator change. Because there are people that obviously Dan Orlovsky has been the main one talking about the Eagles' pass concepts and stuff like that. There's been some people obviously saying that the pass, that's a part of what Kellen Moore was supposed to fix that he hasn't, which the Dallas rumors makes it a little bit interesting. But so why is it, not to say that he always has to be a 300-yard guy, but why are you not, after the Super Bowl, people thought Jalen Hurts was consistently going to be at a level. And I feel like consistently he has not been at that level. And I don't even think like he's been consistently at the level of what he was that in year.
I totally agree. But I'm going to go back to the thing is, they are his first year there, Nick Sirianni, he was the primary play caller and everything. Primary of his offense. And it looked bad. When they switched to Shane Steichen, it got better. Shane Steichen stayed the whole year. The next year was his best year ever. Jalen Hurts. Then the next year, they lose Shane Steichen, take a step back. Okay, now this year, it looks like he's taking a step back again. And my thing is the continuity of the offense coordinator matters more than what people are saying the scheme is. In my opinion, the continuity will happen the same offensive coordinator. And matter of fact, same quarterback coach. Because quarterback coach change every year too. He hasn't had the same quarterback coach either.
And that's also probably a part of it, because there's some things that Kellen Moore could change in terms of he might like the timing on something a little bit better, so he might switch up how Jalen Hurts stands or some shit like that. So that's definitely a factor of it. But he's like the epitome, like the poster child of winning cures everything, because if they weren't winning,
right,
what will we be saying? Which we'll get into the games this weekend. It's gonna be on watch. It's gonna be on watch because they're gonna need it this week. But aside from that, man, Baker, man, sorry, man, you gotta tighten up. You gotta tighten. It really wasn't your fault, but it is your fault because you're supposed to be the person that cures all. Same thing with Justin Herbert.
Oh boy,
that's
Justin Herbert.
Let's talk about it. That shit was south. We do need to talk about some stuff, but go ahead. What you got to say about Justin Herbert?
Look, man, and that's the reason we talked about it. We talked about it from last week. Chris brought it up. We talked about what happened a couple of years ago when they were in the playoffs and he kind of folded in that second half. Just didn't do enough, and that's the stigma that's been with him. Like, it's not necessarily his fault that they're losing in games, that they're down in games, but he's not stepping up either, and we've seen that come from different quarterbacks at different times throughout the season in the playoffs, where they put the ball in your hands at the end of the game, or when it's a tight game, when you're down one score and you need this, and you give it to the other team, or you take a bad sack or whatever. That's the stuff that just is way too often now with Justin Herbert, where it's like, all right, now that's why everybody's calling like, all right, what they call him, like Mr. If Man, like that's what they've been calling him and shit. Twitter quarterback, whatever it is, but like social media quarterback, I should say. That's the stuff that he's not going to shake with performances like this, and it was pretty bad. Like, I understand, like a couple of the like the last interception, we can throw that out. He was just tossing that shit up, and the one that bounced off, who was it? I don't know who was it.
Will
Disley's hands. Obviously, not his fault. It was a pass right in the pocket. But that one when he overthrew Ladd and they took that shit back, that was way too crucial of a time in that game. That's the same shit that we just saw happen with Sam Darnold. Way too crucial of a time for that shit to happen in a playoff game. I mean, you see stuff like that not step to the plate way too often with Justin Herbert. And it is disappointing because this is year 6 or like it's or year 5 or 6. So it's like, when is it going to click? When is it going to? I understand, Chris, new system, new offensive coordinator and all that stuff at the same time. For gotta have it drives, he's not doing it consistently. So
that's cap, but go ahead.
How's that cap?
That's cap.
How's that cap?
That's cap.
How's it cap?
Guys,
when has he shown that?
God.
The NFL is starting to get like the NBA. Everybody and their mama could not wait to say something about Justin Herbert. It didn't matter what that man did. I mean, everybody and their mama was like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to go."
Bro, he threw a pick 6 when they were down 6 points. What do you mean?
He threw a pick 6, and it was a. He threw it a little too high. He shouldn't have hitched. It went through Lad's hands. He should have caught it. All of that is true. It was a bad pass. All of that is true. All of that makes sense. At the end of the day, we also watched the game. The entirety of the first half was marred with drop passes, was marred with silly shit going on by the offense.
And we knew all year that it didn't have a receiver core that needs to be.
But that also matters. We got to stop doing this where we expect these quarterbacks to go out here and do. Patrick Mahomes is struggling without weapons. We could put that out there, and that's what they've been. They've been completely obviously, Patrick Mahomes has come through in the big moments, but the reason that his stats are the way they are is because they have no weapons over there. And aside from Ladd, who had damn near 200 yards, what do the rest of the receivers do? What do they have? Like,
they didn't
2
do
catches?
Anything. They didn't do anything. Yes, so, like, I understand that.
Let's calm down in terms of this. There's been when is it gonna click? It'll click when they have some fucking players on the team. when they have a fucking offensive coordinator. Notice the same offensive coordinator that Lamar just got rid of is the same offensive coordinator that is with the Chargers. All of a sudden, it's clicking for Lamar now. The moment that the motherfucker gets out, and the moment that he has a lick of weapons. All this stuff that Justin Herbert's never won a big game. Well, how the fuck did they get in the playoffs? How have they made the playoffs at any point in time if you never won a big game? Because they've only been wild cards, so you have to win some games that are must-win games at some point. Like, I mean, what are we talking about? Like,
it's only his second game.
Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. And then people have been like, oh, he gave up a 27-point lead. Did we watch the game? Did we actually watch the game? Because it wasn't Justin Herbert. It wasn't Justin Herbert. The man threw like 3 touchdowns. I don't even think he had an interception in the game. Well, I mean, why is everybody so quick to come and be like, bash, 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 bash? Like, let's add some nuance and context to it.
It's because of expectations. If everybody's going to put you, put you in that same category, of talent as the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, they don't want to see performances like that in the playoffs, especially the first round of playoffs. That's what it's coming from. And it's never going to stop if it keeps happening. I understand that the weapons aren't there. I get that. The weapons ain't been there all season. And he hasn't made those type of mistakes all season. And then you see it just pop up in the biggest game. They had the same weapons all season. And he didn't throw 3 interceptions.
I mean, you can't expect somebody the ball to bounce off somebody's hands. You can't.
But that's okay. I said take that out. Hands. Take that out. But it's still, I'm talking about the point in the game. You cannot make that mistake. You cannot make that mistake. I don't know what your thoughts. You can't.
I'm not disagreeing about that. But at the end of the day, like, it's not like people are looking so hard to put indictments on quarterbacks or players just for the hell of it, really. Like, it's everybody wants to put an indictment on a player for what? Like, Justin Herbert, obviously, if we've all recognized that he had incompetent coaching the past 4-5 years, why is now when we recognize that he also nobody expected them to be as good as they were. Nobody expected his stats to be as good as they were, the mistakes to not happen as they have. So if we're talking about expectations, he exceeded all of the expectations.
But then you created a 17-game sample size of, but then in the first game of the playoffs, you come out and wipe away all of that and play it differently. It could be viewed as I mean, same type of shit. Like, you play well. We understand he had his bumps in the road this season too with the interceptions and stuff like that. But we didn't see him get sacked like this. Even with the change in the offensive line with the left tackle, we didn't see him get sacked like this. But in the biggest game, I understand the Rams. I mean, it wasn't even like elaborate shit I feel like they were doing in that game against Sam Darnold. I just feel like it was the offensive line crumbled. We get that too, but a lot of those sacks, man, he didn't have to take that shit. And especially that, like, you got to get rid of the ball faster on that fumble that he had. When you see that shit ain't looking how you expect it to look, you got to make a decision. You can't be there all indecisive and shaky and shit. And that's kind of what came up.
I would say that's a good example of how the scheme changes. The offense from last year with Kurt didn't look the same because Sam struggles throwing short routes. So everything that he does, if you really peep the Vikings offense, everything is deep. So, comparatively to Kurt, obviously we know.
I think he, if I'm not mistaken, he's dead last, or either dead last or second last to time to get rid of the ball because he likes deep routes, play action,
deep concepts. Yeah, that was definitely like and that's been on online too. That 4th and 2 play where Jefferson was the only route, at the sticks, and everything else was just deep, which I get, but when he slips, you're fucked. and you're looking like, so yeah, it's definitely the play call and definitely the it is tough though. It is tough for Sam Darnold because, I still think he's going to get some kind of contract, but these last 2 games, I don't know. I don't know who does it. I think it changes who gives it to him. I don't know. I think it will still happen, but like, if you're the Vikings, and we talked about it last week, do you even franchise him? Or do you just let him go? It's a decision. And then if you're the Vikings also, though, like, you still got a lot of other decisions to make on your roster. Like, most of your starters, I want to say they said like 39%, 40% of their starters are free agents, or 30% of the most snaps played. Yeah, most snaps played are free agents. So they got a lot of decisions to make on both sides of the ball there. Do you bring them back?
I think Stephon Gilmore and Harrison Smith are carrying a lot of that just from playing most of the games where they're kind of adding into the percentages there. But they definitely got some decisions to make. But
Byron Murphy gone.
And those 2 of their older players too. So I don't know if y'all seen Harrison Smith press conference, but that boy he looking like
he been doing it a while.
He might be out of there.
And then in terms of Sam, I really don't think if that game changed your mind about Sam, then you were never really on Sam, in my opinion. There's no, if you win 14 games in a season, obviously it was, once again, everybody's been like, oh, he had an opportunity to play 2 playoff games. Well, what the fuck was the rest of the games? Like, was the game against Green Bay not a big game that he dominated, the week before? So, I don't.
But at the same time, though, I get what you're saying, but shit does get tight though when the games mean more. It, like, players do start acting differently. That's real. Like 100%.
I guess, to an extent, but at the end of the day, like, the teams that he lost to are the teams that he lost to in the regular season anyway. So, the Rams gave them problems last game anyway. So I don't know if that's like that could be more. And obviously, Kevin O'Connell comes from, the Rams and stuff like that. So they might just know how to attack that defense. That offense. So I maybe on the high end in terms of, the highest amount he could have possibly maxed out. But I think that his contract where he was going to fall is where he was going to fall regardless, in my opinion. And in terms of the Vikings, I know people have been talking about the comments that they had. I don't think that it changes very much because at the end of the day, J.J. McCarthy is still coming off of an injury. They're still going to try to want to get, depending on what they think they can get. Can they get, more than a 3rd round pick? Because that's probably what they would get in terms of compensatory pick if he signed somewhere. Maybe. That would probably go more into whether they sign him or not. If they feel like they can get a 2nd round pick or even a higher 3rd round pick, maybe they would trade him dead. But aside from that, I don't think it changes too much, to be quite honest. But I think his options were limited in the first place. We talked about it. Where could he really go? And the team that he might go to is probably the team that he probably lost to. So, depending on what happens with Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
So,
if the
but
Rams win
with
that
that
ship
being,
this year, he's out of there. Matt
yeah, for
Stafford,
sure,
he's
for
done,
sure, for sure.
riding off into the sunset.
With that being said, the Sam Darnold talk, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, give us a good segue into hot seat watch. Really, there was basically every losing quarterback just about except for Bo Nix, you could probably say is, kind of feeling some heat. Just Baker, the way they lost, Jordan Love, obviously, Russell Wilson. Where is his career going to go? But yeah, that gives us a good segue into the hot seat watch. Who you guys got this week and and why?
Okay. For me, I mean, I know it's, I don't think necessarily obviously his job is not going to be in trouble. His position is not going to be in trouble. But those same kind of worries of what we're seeing as far as immobile quarterbacks will pop up if Jared Goff does not have the best game. I'm going to go with Jared Goff in this one. I understand that the Lions I understand they won 15 games this season. I get it. They look awesome. But when you have an immobile quarterback, it does limit you to an extent. Now, they've worked around it because of the play calling, because of the creativity. Again, he can move a little bit, but at the same time, you see when he gets in a pickle, and especially when there's a lot of pressure on him, you see he makes some weird mistakes. You don't want to see that at a time where you're the number one seed coming off a bye week, going against a team that you should beat. You definitely should beat this team, but they're playing with some juice. They got an offense that can score some points that I don't think your defense is good enough to stop. I think they'll have some problems with Jaden Daniels, so it's going to be on Jared Goff to continue what we've seen in the regular season, just being prolific with the offense, keeping the defense on their toes, and not making mistakes. And we've seen them make a lot of mistakes this season. They've overcome it as a team, but we've seen Jared Goff make some weird. He had some weird games. Of course, the 5-hit game comes up. Of course, even like the couple weeks ago where he just tossed that shit. Like he's under pressure. I just gotta see more from I gotta see it from Jared Goff in these moments. I understand he's already been to the Super Bowl. I get it. We've seen him in the playoffs, but still gotta see it more with this particular team. So I'm gonna put Jared Goff on the hot seat. I'm gonna see what you do this week. You should beat this team. Don't play around with them.
They should.
Yes. You don't think so? What you talking
about? For me, hot seat watch goes to a multitude of organizations that are still looking for their head coaches. This is a pivotal time. I mean, we got teams that are putting their play calling on display, and this is the best time to figure out how you want your organization go in the future. I mean, for instance, let's just say Dallas, for instance, like they got to be one of the main ones on the hot seat because you waited to the umpteenth hour to say I'm not going to reason. Now that's some fucked up shit. Let's talk about it. That is, I don't understand that. Maybe I'm tripping, but to sit there and to say, nah, I don't want you to interview with somebody, Mike McCarthy, to interview with the Bears just to turn around and not re-sign them. I just feel like I understand they're all about headlines, but I just think that's just terrible business. Like, that's just beyond fucked up. And that makes me not even want to be head. I understand being a head coach is a prominent thing in the NFL, so obviously anybody who gets the opportunity to become a head coach, no matter where it's at, you're probably going to do it, especially if it's your first time. But I just feel like that situation in general that's just nasty to me. But
in my opinion, I don't think they were trying to be dickheads when they did that. I think that they were actually trying to work something out.
But why wait to the end of the year though? Like why? Like I just feel like if you waited to then to say I'm trying to work something out, you weren't trying to work something out.
It's possible.
It's possible. I mean that there's been reports that saying that they it was more Jerry was trying to get Mike McCarthy to break up with him more than they were trying to break up, trying to make the decision themselves. So that obviously could be a possibility, but I don't think that he was just trying to be a dickhead to Mike McCarthy and like keep him away from the Bears job. But maybe he was. It is Jerry's.
They like them headlines. But yeah.
But I mean, I get what you're saying. It's pivotal time for a lot of these fans, especially the ones with young quarterbacks, where you got to come in. You got to. That's the thing. Like you try to find a guy to mold, and that's kind of what we saw with Dave Canales, which he ended up in a way just overcoming that. It looks like, but we still don't know. They only won 4 games, so we still don't know exactly how that's going to look. But you get the task of coming in and fixing Trevor Lawrence. Get the task of coming in and fixing Caleb Williams, and it's like.
You get
Is that
the
the right
task
route?
of fixing the Vegas Raiders.
Well, that's you get it. That's a totally different story. But yeah, no,
I honestly do not think the Raiders is as big of a project as y'all think. Because that D line is.
I had the Raiders winning 7-8 games this season. I didn't think they were a bad squad, but they do have a lot of holes, especially on the offensive side, especially after trading away Devontae. We'll see what happens with the quarterback situation and see if they keep Aiden. But yeah, I mean, look, and a lot of people are giving a lot of props to Tom Brady, and we'll see how much of an impact. Well, we won't see. We won't ever know how much of an impact he actually has in this whole process. But people are expecting him to have a big impact in this, so we'll see if they can turn around how fast they can. But if they get Ben Johnson, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. It's tough to know if he'll be a good head coach. It really is tough.
Yeah, we definitely don't know if he'll be a good head coach. But also, to Chris's point about the Dallas Cowboys, as people have been saying that stuff as well about like they waited, in terms of like missing out on interviewing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn and all this stuff. In my opinion, they probably floated it out. I mean, they probably put their feelers out. Obviously we don't know for sure. But just putting 2 and 2 together of the stuff that we know about Ben Johnson, I don't think that screams Dallas Cowboys. Just in terms of like he floated out that he wanted the front office to come out and tell us why exactly they fucked up in the past and how they can move forward. That doesn't scream Jerry Jones. You pull out of multiple interviews, just doesn't scream going to Dallas. So I don't think Aaron Glenn for sure. If he wasn't fucking with the Patriots trying to use him as token black dude. So I don't think that he would have. I mean, I just see he don't seem like he would have went to the Cowboys either. And the thing that I really think they fucked up on was the Bill Belichick. Obviously, like to Chris's point, why wait to the end of the year? If you thought clearly Bill wanted to go to the Cowboys, based on everything that we've heard, or at least that was an option for him. If you basically are saying no to Bill, then I feel like you thought, hey, we're going to be able to sign Mike McCarthy, unless they felt like we're going to be able to sign Mike McCarthy for this whole ass deal, which I do think that's a part of it too. I do think that there's that was my first thought. Like, look, maybe because, people were trying to say that they didn't get into contract talks. Maybe they didn't. They obviously knew what Mike McCarthy wanted, and Mike McCarthy obviously knew what they wanted as well. I feel like they probably tried to offer Mike McCarthy, hey, you can be on this 2-year deal.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's definitely a short deal.
You don't pan out next year, Bill Belichick can come in.
Yep.
And now they're in a position where they're like, who we can hire, because they've been talking about Jason Witten. We can hire Jason Witten. We can fire his ass next year.
Just to get rid of him. Oh, let's bring Kellen Moore back. Let's bring Kellen Moore back.
Maybe. Because the Kellen Moore stuff was weird to me because people with there's people with Philly that have been kind of like, I don't know about this nigga. So I don't like it. All of a sudden now he's a head coach and nobody else has interviewed him for head coach this year.
And we all know, yeah, that's exactly why. So it's like, okay, let's bring in this guy just for feels this season, get some headlines. Jason Witten, former player, and then
that Deion shit, please. I don't want to hear no more about Deion Sanders in the NFL. Please.
I do want to say, and we talked about it last year with the head coaches too. Like the shit the Patriots did was kind of nasty, man. And I know like it's a tricky topic, but when they brought in, Leftwich and whoever else they brought in, and we all knew that everybody knew, but they just had to do that and post it just to get their quota met. It's so nasty. And we had a in-depth conversation about it this time last year, but I just do not like that shit at all. I feel like it's so pointless, and I feel like it's a slap in the face. It makes it even worse. I'd rather you just not even interview. Like, what I mean? If you just pick your player, just pick, your person. Like,
and to be honest, it's not even just like in terms of like, put the Rooney Rule stuff aside. Like, are you even doing the best job? Clearly, you didn't do the best job last year in terms of vetting all the coaches that you possibly could. Like, why are so many organizations set on one man? Because obviously Mike Vrabel, we didn't mention it, but Mike Vrabel got hired to be the Patriots head coach. I mean, it wasn't really anything that we needed to mention because everybody knew it was going to happen, like as mentioned. But, now everybody's kind of coming at his neck for saying the run comment that he said about however many touches a running back has or whatever shows that that teams win this way, which is, I mean, you got to be an idiot if you really like. They really think that we might be. I think that those coaches think that we're idiots when they say that. Like, okay, bro, like we get it. You were up 20 points, so you ran the ball 30 fucking times.
Exactly.
Yes, you won the game. Okay,
it was 40 touches. You get to running back 40 touches a game. I mean,
okay,
right.
Yes, if the quarterback's throwing 50 thmes, it's probably because they're losing. They're probably trying to come back, my boy. Like 50 throws don't just happen. But are you doing a good job of like a good service to the rest of your team of vetting everybody? I just feel like that just, Rooney Rule aside.
They had a chance to get. Why couldn't you just hire? If you're gonna hire Vrabel, why didn't you do it last year? Like you had the chance to do it. There was no reason. Like the guy, y'all same way Gerard Mayo, but Vrabel. Like why wouldn't you just go ahead and like I don't. Yeah, that was.
I mean, we don't know the intricacies of that setup that they had. The kind of succession plan that they had. Maybe they couldn't break it, or I mean, obviously you can break anything you want to. You're Robert Kraft, but maybe they didn't. You
could, because wasn't Josh McDaniels supposed to be the successor as well? Wasn't that why he didn't take the Indy job? That was supposed to be the reasoning, that he got a new contract that said he was supposed to be Bill's successor. So nobody's ever brought that up since, because that just kind of like, I guess people forgot about that. But he definitely left the Colts because he said that supposedly he was supposed to be the successor in New England. So.
Facts.
But I don't know.
Who's your hot seat?
You done with your hot seat?
Yeah.
Oh, Chris?
Yeah, I'm done.
So for my hot seat watch this week, I got another quarterback. I'm going with Baker Mayfield. Not because he played bad, because obviously he played well this past week, and then he had a mistake that ultimately lost him the game, but more so with the theme of the conversation this week in terms of continuity. You're looking at another possibly losing both the head coach. Obviously, we haven't heard any news about that and confirmation that Bowles will or won't be there next year. But Liam Cohen, again, another offensive coordinator, and that's kind of been his whole career, where you're having offensive coaches and just coaches in general being in and out of the organization. I don't know really with everything that's kind of happened with the Bucs and, Godwin's injury, there's obviously some players that have left the championship team. Mike Evans is getting a little older. You're getting a little bit away from the Tom Brady championship Bucs, the Bruce Arians, Todd Bowles Bucs of that. And now we're kind of getting molded into more of the Baker Mayfield team. How does the Baker Mayfield team look moving forward? Are you going to continue to be this team that sneaks into the playoffs and, luckily to the credit of the other team that they played last year, you got a playoff win. But this year, are you going to continue to be sneaking into the playoffs, being the 4 seed, and then losing in the wild card? Or is the ceiling higher than that? And I think Baker, at this point for your career, you have an opportunity to also break into a ceiling higher than the Brock Purdy's of the world or the Kyler Murray's of the world, or possibly where Dak Prescott might find himself. I think that he's kind of, both him, Baker, are really in that realm of like top 10-ish, or are they just middle of the pack guys? Jared Goff, I would feel, is probably in that realm. Kirk Cousins took a skydive right out of that realm. So I don't know, that's probably where you are. Are you going to break into the bona fide top 10, or are you going to stay middle of the pack? So Baker Mayfield on the hot seat. You got a lot to think about this offseason. A lot to think about, because that is a tough way to lose the game. So I got Baker Mayfield on the hot seat this week.
I like that a lot. I agree with all
Makes
that,
sense.
especially with him
Makes sense.
turning 30 next year. Like, I understand quarterbacks are playing longer. I mean, kind of. But then again, like you signed a 3-year contract, you're in the first year that you just finished the first year that you're going to be looking. You're going to be looking to sign an extension after next season. Realistically, you want to sign an extension and that be pretty much your last big contract. It's going to be very important. So I agree with that hot seat for sure going into next season, going into this offseason.
And on top of that, people have been using Baker and Geno really, because Geno could honestly fall into the hot seat with Baker as well. But they've been using them as the model for reinvigorating your career as a quarterback, and that model looks kind of crumbles real quick if you're not as good as if your career is not actually reinvigorated.
Exactly.
So
when you have a limited ceiling, is it really, at that point, it's like you look at it like, is it really worth it? Don't know.
So Baker Mayfield, Geno, I'm gonna throw you in there last minute. You're on the hot seat too.
Damn, Geno.
Kyler, I'm gonna throw your ass in there.
I was gonna say Kyler too.
He was on the hot seat last week, so Baker was not included in last week's all quarterback hot seat. So Baker is really the main culprit here. But with that being said, before we hop into our picks for the week, Chris, we didn't mention the Mike McCarthy did get let go. Or really, they parted ways. Obviously, he was an expiring contract for a head coach. So he is no longer the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Vrabel, like I mentioned, officially has been hired to the New England Patriots as their head coach over the past week. Jimmy Lake was officially fired as the Falcons defensive coordinator
No, they hurt my boy
over the past week. And Tommy Rees officially became the offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns this past week as well, with a lot of links to Jalen Milroe. So that'll be something to watch moving forward. Like I said, before we get into the picks real quick, where does Dallas rank on you guys' are they more on the top or the bottom in terms of jobs that you would go to?
Look, as a first time head coach, probably have to rank top. Fuck it. Cause I mean, again, head coaching jobs don't come around like that. And when they do, it's a lot of other people trying to be who are candidates to become a job. But I mean, as far as the talent around Dallas, there's obviously some things that they need to fix. But I mean, there are pieces there you can work with. I don't think they're just a terrible, personnel wise. You do have some things you got to fix. You got to figure out what you might want to do with Diggs. You got Michael Parsons up to sign, different things of that nature. And you got a draft coming up that you can probably hit on. The only issue I have with them is how much say do you have as far as draft picks go? You know what I'm saying? They have a system that they work with. They've been working with forever. So as a new head coach, especially an upcoming one, that might be a stopgate for you. Like, hey, you have no say so on this. And that could be kind of frustrating when you're trying to build your team up. But as far as just what they have in general, it's one of the top places you will probably want to go. Owner aside,
it's I don't know. It's a tough one. I don't think they're that low, to be honest. I think there's a lot you can do with this roster, and I think they're in a division, in a conference where you can make some noise early enough. You still have players on your roster with you have blue chips and CD and Micah, and you got to make a decision about Micah and see how much you want to pay him and all of that. But that's we'll see how that goes this offseason. And then you have a quarterback in Dak, which again, like you said, is on that top 10-ish bubble, but not terrible, and you can do a lot with them if you build around them. So I don't think it's that bad of a job, honestly. Last week I picked the Seattle offense coordinator as the one I would choose. I would probably put Dallas Patriots. We can cross the Patriots out. But I would have had Patriots after that. But I'll put the Dallas job above the Saints job. I'll put the Dallas job above the Jets job. And I would put it above.
Would you put it above the Jags?
I'm not sure if
I don't know. I don't know if I put it above the Jags. But the point is, I don't think it's a bad job. But yeah, where you put it?
I'd probably have it more middle of the pack, honestly, because you know you do have a lot of decisions to make. Obviously, if you do sign Michael Parsons, now you've got three guys getting top of the market. And the one thing I would, and then obviously you do have to deal with the Dallas media. You do have to deal with Jerry. Um, I wouldn't be as nervous about the draft, say, because they have been a pretty good drafting team just in really over the past 2 decades. They're not a team that just crumbles. Like they're always a team that's typically like even their down years, they're like a 7-win team, 8-win team. They always have some type of like baseline talent. Um, I but
Mm-hmm.
so I wouldn't be that wouldn't make me as nervous. That would probably be one of the more attractive things about it. But like you said, what do you do with Diggs? Because there obviously has been the little rumors about him. You can get out of his contract this year pretty well. And, obviously with Micah signing, that actually I said three. That would be four players at the top of the market. Then you have Bland as well, who's an all-pro. DeMarcus Lawrence is a free agent this offseason. What do you do with him? Overshown
He just keep
Tough.
getting injured,
playing next
man.
year,
Tough.
that gets tough there. And then, it's just a lot of guys that you have to start, you do have to start hitting on a lot of draft picks. And then I don't know, they're not a team that goes out of their way to build through free agency as well. So that would be something that would be more of my concern is in terms of like, what can I do in terms of commitments to signing free agents in the offseason? But I've actually come around a lot on the Raiders job. The Raiders job is probably the one that I'm like a full go. Let's get it. Like that's
What
Man just want to
entices
go
you the most
gamble.
about
He
it?
want to gamble.
what?
So first off, you already have you have an offensive tackle. You have an offensive guard or center, however you want to look at it. So you have a couple of offensive pieces. You obviously have a superstar tight end who could possibly be the best tight end in the league. Jacoby Myers has always been a solid receiver, so you're not starting from scratch there, as well as Trey Tucker's a decent deep threat. You can obviously improve. Receivers are a little bit easier to improve than any other position, in my opinion. On defense, you have a superstar defensive end at pass rush, and if you can,
They said they're gonna trade him. Hold that now.
I don't think they're going to trade him, but if you can get a good aggressive defensive coordinator that can really maximize his talent. Now you have Kuntz coming back as well. I think he's a free agent this offseason, but with his injuries, he could probably come back cheap. Once again, with Tariq Wilson, he was still a top 10 pick. You could try to find somebody to get the best out of him. Chasen started doing some things towards the end of the year. So you have a solid rotation at defensive end in terms of a pass rush. Didn't even mention Christian Wilkins. Obviously he got hurt this year, so you still have a great player there. The back end is where things get a little.
You got to redo that whole fucking shit.
You got Jack Jones, who he makes plays, but he can be a corner. You've got some guys that can be a corner over there. And then the defensive the back end, as long as you can find one guy, you need at least one playmaker. You can get away with some Joes because you have a good defensive line. Now you're going to need some talent that you're going to have to back up with that. And then Aiden O'Connell. I mean, if I'm Ben Johnson, I feel like I can get the job done with Aiden O'Connell until we are able to, and then we could trade up for a Shador or some. If I think that's probably what they're eyeing right now. Yeah, we get Shador, let Aiden O'Connell play. If we give him a good offensive scheme, give him another receiver. I mean, why couldn't he be? I'm not saying playing on this level of Jared Goff, but why couldn't he be playing on the level of Jared Goff last year? We had the conversation about Trevor Lawrence, and I said that there's no difference from the current play. And you were like, oh, you're bugging. The EPA is right there. I'm just saying, the EPA between him and Caleb is right there, and that's what last year's debacle. Because they did fire their offensive coordinator last year as well. I'm just saying, he looking at, and then we got the report, or who knows how true it is. We heard the reports of Ben Johnson liking Sam Howell, and that possibly being the reason that things soured with Washington last year. I'm just saying. I'm looking at it, and then we get Shador. Maybe we trade. Maybe we don't even need to trade up. We get Shador at our regular place. I'm just saying. We get a little facilitator. And then from there, hey, niggas want to come to Vegas. Folks want to come to Vegas. So, period. It's obviously a place that's going to be a destination spot so long as things look like it's up and coming. But if it don't look like it, the toughest thing about it is being in that division. But I'm not sold on Bo Nix. Maybe Colin Coward is, but Bo Nix's ass.
I'm not sold. I mean, and it's a lot of people about that game too. It's a lot of fans that are like, oh, we have our quarterback of the future. Like
he threw that dot.
Slow that shit down, bro. You
after that,
clearly tell by the game plan that Sean Payton don't trust this nigga to open up the offense.
He don't trust him yet, but I mean,
but he ought to young man Joseph. Shit crazy.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe, like I said earlier in the year, you got guys that we say those older quarterbacks are what they are, but maybe they're not are what they are, and they can always grow. You never know. They could always grow. There used to be a point in time where it used to be you wanted the 4-year starter at quarterback to be your quarterback. So, the shift to the NFL, I guess people feel like that's no longer a thing, but I'm not sold on Bo Nix, though.
I'm not either. At all.
With that being said.
But shout out to the Broncos making the playoffs. They got waxed, though. So it's waxed.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and get the rundown of the picks last week, and then we'll go ahead and get to the divisional round.
All right. Last week, Chris, you got 3 out of the 6 right. The only ones you got right were Baltimore, Buffalo, and, of course, Philly. Shy, you have 4 out of 6. Pretty much same thing, but you picked the Rams instead of Minnesota. And I got all 6 right. Hey, because I did pick Houston and Washington, and they pulled it out. Like Washington pulled it out, but Houston, they should not. Houston shouldn't have won that, but
Washington shouldn't have either. But Washington is a team that I'm looking at for a heavy regression next year. I'm not gonna lie.
That's the thing. They're doing the same exact thing that they did last year for CJ. I'm talking about the same exact headline, same exact quotes.
I don't like the aspect of just rookie quarterbacks. Like people won't allow people to be rookies, and that's my problem. Like what you about to say, Kaz? They anointed CJ last year. He looked like shit.
Anointed CJ last year.
I saw something talking about is he gonna surpass Lamar? It's like, bro,
come
this
on,
nigga about to be a 3-time MVP.
Bro, what are we doing here? What are we doing? But they're doing it though. They're doing it every single day. Don't let them win by some way. Don't let them win this game, and it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get real nasty with the hype for him. But anyway, so total that brings the totals to Shy, me, and you are at 65 now. Chris, you're in the lead at 71 on the season.
All right, starting with the first game of the week. Obviously, on Saturday, the 2-1 seeds will be playing. So we got the Texans versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Texans had a dominant win against the Chargers last week. Who you guys got and why?
I'm gonna go ahead and roll with the Chiefs. Right now, they're the what am I trying to say? They've been there, you know what I'm saying? They're a more veteran team. They've been there. This is what they do. So I expect them to come out. I don't even expect them to be rusty, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because, as we've seen this year, the Chiefs' offense hasn't been the dominant offense that we know it to be beforehand. And so I don't think they'll come out here and go crazy or nothing. But they'll get a convincing win. So I got the Chiefs.
I'm going to roll the Chiefs as well in this one. Like I said, like I mentioned, like a little bit, and we talked about it. Houston did everything they could to lose that game in the beginning of it, and they end up pulling it out and breaking away. I don't think Kansas City plays around like that this time. Kansas City will be at home, which the home field advantage did help Houston. I feel like in that game last week. But I got Kansas City in this one. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a blowout, like you said, Chris. But I don't think it's gonna be close either. I think like it's gonna be one of those things where there's no doubt that after a while, like Kansas City's gonna win this game. Like Houston can keep trying, whatever. But they're gonna have to stop the run like they've been stopping it all season. Like Kansas City's a good run defense. Stop the run, you're most likely just win this game outright.
I actually think this is going to be the closest game of the week. I think this is one of those games where a lot like everybody I feel like is going to pick Kansas City as they should, but once again the Texans are that team. Somehow they keep winning games that they shouldn't win. And when they played earlier in the season, obviously that was the game that Tank Dell had his injury, but if you remember, Kansas City got off to kind of a little bit of a hot start, and then they kind of roared back. And then once Tank Dell caught that touchdown, and then CJ started crying. It was kind of I ain't trying to be funny, but it was kind of a wrap from there. I think that game would have went a little bit different. I'm not saying they would have won. I think that game would have went a little different had that not happened, or had he just not. I think he kind of lost all composure at that point. So I think I'm going to still pick the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. But I would not be surprised at all if the Texans win this game by the skin of their teeth. And with Kansas City not really playing for the past month, basically, I think that comes to hurt them as well. But get into the next game, Washington versus the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Washington had a miraculous win this past week. And Detroit was just sitting at home. Who you guys got and why?
I'm rolling with Detroit again. Another team that's been on a roll this year. I don't like Washington defense. I don't think they have any pieces really to stop Detroit offense. I understand Detroit is hurt themselves on defense, but yeah, their offense is too good for right now. Their offense has shown me throughout the whole entire year that even with, I know they're going to try to heat up Jared Goff or whatnot, but their offense is too good right now. And like I said, Washington, their defense isn't good at all. Like they don't have a good defense to me. So I think Detroit's going to come in here and light it up.
This is the toughest one for me to pick for this week, to be honest. Just because of Detroit's defense, I understand, maybe they just pull out all the stops and just show up, and defense is a lot about the players and want to. But I think they're going to struggle with this. I want to pick Washington. I'm not going to lie. I want to pick Washington, but I'm going to go with Detroit. But I would not be surprised if Washington win this. So. Yeah.
I'm going with Detroit in this one in an easy blowout. I'm not gonna lie. The way Washington wins a lot of games, once again, they're kind of like the Texans. They win a lot of games that they probably shouldn't win. Obviously, we know the Hail Mary, the overtime win against the Falcons. They had the Saints, I think. It came down to the last play of the game. This past week, it basically came down to the last play of the game. Their Cinderella season, I think, comes to an end. Similar to same thing. They lose to all the good teams. They beat the teams that they're kind of right there with. And I think that Detroit kind of pretty much dominates this game from start to finish.
One thing I did like about Washington, though, and this last week came down to the last possession, but they got the ball back with like 5 minutes left, and they were able to control that clock all the way down to a last second field goal. And I think that's important for our offense, important for a young quarterback to do. I think that was a fantastic drive that they had against Tampa Bay's defense. I like to see stuff like that. So, but yeah,
it was definitely solid, and Tampa's defense aided in that a little bit. My boy, because they had a couple of penalties, I think, on that drive, and then my guy Yaya Diaby, he missed
grabbing the towel, running with the
no, that was
Cansey.
Yancey.
Kalajic.
Yeah, you're right. But he tried to swat the pass from that CJ had on the big
to Eckler.
To Eckler.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my boy, that was a great read, beyond the X and O's type play right there. Just tackle him. You're not a DB, bro. Just tackle him. You would have got him easy. It would have been a punt. It would have been over with. But I just the way they've been winning games is I mean I say it's unsustainable, but obviously they've been sustaining it all year. But I'm saying it's unsustainable. It kills them this week.
AKA Brian Branch hitting Jaden Daniels this week.
I'm gonna fold him up.
Knocking the Sonic rings
He
out
gonna
there.
fold him up. He had one of them in this game. Fucking
Yeah,
Zion
I was
McCollum.
like, what
That
you
boy,
doing?
boy. I'm talking about, he was over there floating on the. I was like, damn, Jaden.
They
Yeah.
better chill out.
All right.
But getting into the first game of Sunday, the Rams versus the Eagles. Who you guys got and why?
Man, I got Philly in this game. It's gonna be a good game. I know a lot of people think it's gonna be the same for the first time. I don't think so. Obviously, Saquon ran for 255 yards. If they let that shit happen again, they deserve to fucking lose. But my biggest thing is our defense. Our defense has been playing lights out. I don't think anybody in the NFL could have predicted this. And to be honest, outside of the one game against the Bills, the Rams offense have not been playing good. They scored 12 points against the 49ers, 19 against the Jets, 13 against the Cardinals. Save for outside of the, fumble return by Jared Verse, their offense only put up 20 points and only put 3 points up after half. So their offense they do have the weapons, they do have great receivers on the outside, but I think our defense is going to stand up and play them tough. Offensively, like Shai said, that passing game does not look good. But for whatever reason, when a team scores, we score right back. For whatever reason, we be looking like shit the entire game, but every time a team gets close, we score right back. So I'm gonna lean on that. I'm gonna lean on our defense. I think we're gonna get the dub.
I'm gonna go with the Rams in this one. And like you said, Chris, they did like the offense wasn't producing those last like 3 or 4 games of the season, but they were still able to go 4-0 because that defense stepped up. When we saw it again this past week. Of course, it starts from the pass rush, which you guys do have the offensive line to be able to protect that. Supposed to protect that. But I just think as a unit, they're still playing well. And they did a lot of stunts in this game. And if the offensive line is able to pick that up, cool. But I think it's going to be a lot on the receivers to make plays. And I think it's going to come down to a turnover or two that Jalen has. And I mean, also a part of this is the Rams being my preseason pick to make it to the Super Bowl. So I'm rocking with them. But I got the Rams with the upset here.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the Rams as well. But the Eagles are. I mean, in terms of the talent, I mean, it's kind of where you have to land at, and that's where I'm landing at. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in another close game. It's tough because I am very concerned about the passing game, and I don't think that Saquon, like Chris mentioned, is going to be able to. I mean, he did break 2 fucking 70-yarders. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but it very well could. But I mean, for the most part, the game was a close game. And then, every time the Rams try to get it a little closer, the like Chris mentioned, they scored, the Eagles went right back down and scored. And then it'd be a little bit of a stalemate. Then it's a Saquon bust. And then, they tried to make it close again, and then it just got out of hand. Cooper Kupp has not really been making any noise over the past few weeks. And I think that's really what's going to hinder them. I think that, because as Chris mentioned, once again, the Eagles defense has been lights out. The defense, obviously the cornerbacks have been physical as well. But, I think that Puka could get off and deal with it. I don't know, I don't want to say that Cooper's washed, but given what we've seen this season, I'm not sure that he can overcome that. And I think that would be the difference in the game. If he is able to overcome it, I think the Rams end up winning. But I'm rocking with the Eagles in this one, and I do think that Jalen Hurts has another big playoff game because, I mean, it seems like every time we start to question him, he does also answer as well.
Yeah,
so
same thing happened when we played the Panthers. Question the pass, and he just started throwing. But yeah,
so we'll see. But getting into the final game,
cold.
Yeah, we'll be in the cold. But the Rams are a physical team, so at least that's like how they like to play. I don't know about Matt Stafford. He might be feeling that one a little bit. But getting into the last game of the week, and probably the game that everybody's looking forward to. if you're not a fan of the team. But Ravens versus the Bills, Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson, obviously. They're going to be the top two in terms of MVP this year. Who you guys got and why?
Woo! Yeah. This is a good one.
Yeah, this the one.
I'm looking forward to watching this game. I think it's gonna be some fireworks in this game. I'm rocking with the Ravens just because it's just me personally, but I never liked the Bill defense this year. It's almost like a hit and miss with them. I feel like the Ravens are hitting their stride defensively in general, but it's just for whatever reason, I feel like the Buffalo Bills, like their defense they get lackadaisical sometimes, and so Josh Allen gonna give everything he got, and he gonna make some heroic plays. It's gonna be some diving. It's gonna be some trying to truck niggas. It's gonna be all kinds of shit, but I think the Ravens gonna pull out on top. Justin Tucker game winner.
You gonna miss that shit. All right, I got
winner.
Man, if Baltimore was at home with this one, I think they win easily. I think Buffalo's gonna have a hard time stopping the run. And I think it's going to be on that offense to put pressure on Baltimore to not sit there and just hand the ball off and have 13 play drives where they're running every single play. You know what I mean? It's a tough one though, but I'm gonna go Buffalo with this one at home. I'm like I said, I would not be surprised if they run it down there. They just kill them with the run game with Baltimore. But I just got a feeling. That Josh Allen will make this shit happen, and that defense will make enough plays, get enough turnovers to kind of make this right. So I'm gonna go Buffalo at home, but I just want to see a good game, and I'm ready for it. To be honest with you,
I got the Ravens in a blowout. I think they're the best team in the league. I think that this is their year. Obviously, I originally picked Buffalo to win at the beginning of the year, but I just don't think. I think the Ravens defense, similar to the Eagles, which I think could possibly end up being the championship here. I think similar to the Eagles, we obviously saw the Ravens have a massive turnover or a turnaround in terms of their defense, and they do a lot of dumb shit where they keep people in the games. And that possibly could also hurt them this week. But I think that the entire team knows what the task at hand is. I think the entire team is kind of, both sides really, but the Ravens more so, especially with Derrick Henry getting to the end of the line in his career. John Harbaugh, I think, is on the hotter seat than a lot of people think. Just given, if you lose this game, not to say that he'll be fired, but at what point you're probably going to have the 2-time MVP back to back, and you're not able to get it done. So I think that this team is going to move with a little bit more urgency, and I think that they roll in this game pretty easily. So I'm going with the Ravens in this one, and I also hope for a good game, but we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be a good weekend for the playoffs in general. Before we give a wrap to it, do you guys want to give a pick for the national championship on Monday as well? Notre Dame versus Ohio State.
I want Notre Dame to win, but I'm gonna go Ohio State. After what I've seen against my Oregon, I can't pick against them. That if they come there with the right mindset, they can win that game. So I'm gonna rock with Ohio State.
I'm gonna go Notre Dame with this one. I think this is the year of Marcus Freeman. I think he continues and finishes the job. I do have a lot of injuries on the defensive side that I am kind of like, but like if they had Benjamin Morrison, I feel like they'll be a little better. But it's very possible that Jeremiah Smith will kill him. But they had a good game plan last week that they were able to look off of and see. They bracketed him pretty much the whole time. It's ready to see how that defense looks against that Ohio State passing offense. So I'm gonna go with Notre Dame with this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Ohio State. Probably another blowout, actually. I think that their toughest task was this past week when they played Texas. And when they hit the lull in the game, they kind of, to see them kind of break out of it and get things right the ship, obviously with the big run with Will Howard. that he slipped on like a goofy nigga.
Yeah.
And then obviously Sawyer had the big play to kind of seal it. But
Yeah.
I do think that they get Jeremiah Smith going. It is easy to to try to copy the game plan, but you also have to have the players to copy the game
That's true.
plan. Which
That's true.
they do have the safety, Xavier Watts, who's a great player, and their defense in a whole is pretty good. But I don't think that they have the talent on the outside to stop. And really, Penn State kind of really had their way with them as well. It was just the quarterback was selling, and especially in the first half, they were kind of having their way. So I think that
he sold
Ohio State
pick,
wins this one pretty comfortably.
Stupid ass.
He fumbled his opportunity to get into the league as well and be a high draft pick, but at least this season. My boy Quinn Ewers floated at his opportunity as well. I really don't know
he
why.
He hasn't announced it, has he?
He announced it today.
He did announce earlier.
Okay,
Which I think it has more to do with, like, I don't know where I could go. The only other place that I could go where my status would be boosted would probably be Ohio State, which is obviously where he started at. And,
Now he'll be a 4th, 5th rounder in the draft this coming up, but maybe he catches on with a place.
I don't know if he'll be that. I don't know if he'll be that. I'm not gonna lie.
We'll see.
We'll see. He might. But I don't know. I wouldn't have suggested to him to go into the draft.
I seen today people threw out like his Quinn Ewers comp is like Skylar Thompson. And they threw out the Miami Dolphins being a place that might take a swing on him later in the rounds to be Tua's backup. And I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, I could see that as a place that would take a chance on a guy like him later on, 5th round or so. Spencer Rattler win the 5th round. I don't know. We'll see.
That's why I was thinking 5th, 6th round. Sam Ehlinger, former Texas quarterback, went to win the 6th round. And I think personally Sam is a little better player. So obviously the draft is a little different year to year. Yeah. But that's probably right around where I'd slot him. But we'll see. Maybe he proves me wrong. He could practice on get his arm a little better. We'll see. But with that being said, that gives us a wrap for another episode of Speak Up Sports Podcast. We'll catch you guys again next week during championship week, and we'll get to see who's going to end up in the Super Bowl. So we'll catch y'all then.
Yes, sir.